I used to have nightmares when I was younger. They all had similar themes. Some I would be bound and unable to move. Some I would be in a car going down a stretch of road with the engine roaring louder and louder. Sometimes it was just the sound. In these dreams I couldn't see, I couldn't move, and my mouth was seemingly taped shut, as no matter how hard I tried, nothing would escape my lips. There was only the sound of static mumbling from what I guess would be the radio somewhere. I could never make out what it was saying. My mom died during childbirth. I think these dreams were my body's way of processing the whole thing, of not having her around. My dad found other ways, usually the ones where his lips were at the bottom of a bottle, but I don't judge him. He would get angry sometimes, but he never made me feel afraid of him. We were on the road a lot for his job, so he would give me lessons on things like maths, English, and history. When I was 17, he found a job where we wouldn't have to move around so much. We had our first real home, one without wheels. I started a job as a paperboy and committed myself to online courses for a couple of years. He didn't believe it, nor would anyone else when I told him that I had been accepted to join the police force. This is where I came across the Bourne tapes. My first 3 months on the force involved shadowing the head of the crime scene investigation, Detective Crawford. He was pushing 60, but he was brighter, faster, and wittier than anyone else in the department. He was nice to me when he had to be, but I liked how strict he was. Thanks to him, I had a routine and a career I looked forward to growing into. The first few weeks largely came down to picking up his coffee by the time that he got around, which was 6 a.m., and then sitting at my desk, deciphering and converting his notepad into Word documents alongside writing up any reports. That was all until last week, when he placed a camera on my desk. What's this? Work. Right, but what is it? He sighed. Plug it into your computer's USB and watch the recordings. Someone handed it to us a couple of years ago, saying that he had gotten it from some guy at a flea market selling a box of junk. I tried figuring it out, but it only led to dead ends and closer to my wife filing for a divorce. I like to get the new guys to look at it to see if there's anything they can find that we never could. With that, he left. I picked up the camera, the USB cord already attached, and flipped it over in my hand. Scratched into the side was the word Bourne. Shrugging, I plugged it into the computer and clicked on the first video file. The first file was titled Meal. The video was shot from the first-person perspective and lasted for about all of 1 minute. The person filming was sitting in a cafe as a waitress walked over to their table and placed down a coffee and 4 slices of toast on a plate. The camera was then placed down on the table as the person's hand came over into frame above. They had brown sleeves, and their hands were impossibly grimy. They picked up the toast and began to tear it away from the crust. Once done, they picked up the coffee and placed the crustless toast on the plate beneath. They then slid the plate to the side in front of the seat beside them in the booth. The camera was then picked back up and was now facing the empty space beside where the plate was placed in front of. The camera remained in this position for about 10 seconds before the person reached out with their hand and patted the empty seat. The video then ended. File 2 was titled Lucky. This video was again shot from first-person perspective, but this time it only lasted about 12 seconds. The camera was positioned as if being a dash cam for the front window of what I assumed to be a car. The video consisted of a man and a woman pushing their baby in a pram across the road in front. This was all that happened. File 3 was titled Prophecy. In this video, the camera was positioned to look out of a window. The glass was cracked in several places with a thick coating of dust obscuring the view slightly. I assumed it was maybe filmed in the shed since, in the bottom right corner of the video, you could see the edge of wooden windowsill and the ends of a green finger from maybe a glove. Outside of the window was a field of wheat. After about 20 seconds, a figure shuffled into view outside of the window. They were wearing a long white gown, far too big for them, as the sleeves came past their hands and dangled only inches from the ground. Their face was covered in makeup, so much so that the eyes appeared black from a heavy application of eyeshadow, and their face was completely white, save for the choice of vibrant red lipstick and 2 large circles of pink on both of their cheeks. They had long, bright blonde hair that curled around their shoulders. They were too far away from the camera to make out any details of what they might have looked like besides the costume. They stood there staring at the camera, holding their hands, or rather their sleeves together in front of them. After 30 seconds, they made a motion with their arms, as if rocking a baby. The figure then walked out of frame. The sound of the door being opened could be heard in the background before the camera was picked up and the video ended. File 4 was titled Storm. This video again was shot from the first-person perspective and lasted 9 minutes. The first 4 minutes were seemingly shot from the same window as the file prophecy. Outside of the window, the viewer could see exactly what the name suggested, a storm. Heavy rain pelted against the window, and I even thought that it was going to force it open. In the distance, although the video was at night, you could make out clouds that flashed white periodically, shortly followed by the sound of thunder. Throughout the entire video, a baby could be heard crying in the background. The person filming turned around to reveal a baby in what could only be a bed the person had tried to make out of using a brown coat that was possibly from the video meal. The person filming walked slowly towards the baby, positioning the camera inches away from the child's face, filling the frame. Turning red, tears and snot running down their cheeks as their wailing screams continued. The person filming then made a tutting sound and walked over to the window before picking up a brown toy bear from a pram and gave it to its child. The child accepted the toy and then continued the cry. The person filming then yelled and exited the room, stomping their feet as they entered a small bedroom, slamming the door behind them as the child continued to cry. In the room, there was a yellow-stained bed and beer bottles all over the floor. There was a blonde wig on top of the bed beside the open book. The person filming walked over to the book and picked it up. It was a Bible. They carefully moved it to their bedside table before ending the recording. The final file was titled Becoming a Man. The video was again from a first-person perspective and started with a person filming sitting on the bed from the previous video with their legs crossed in front of them. The door was open and the table was in view of the baby asleep holding their bear. The person filming stood up, walked over to the baby. They made a tutting sound again and wagged their grimy fingers in front of the baby. The baby began to stir at this point. The person filming then snatched the bear from the baby as it instantly began to cry again. They then slammed their fist on the table and pointed at the baby. Still pointing, they backed their way towards the door and walked outside. Turning away from the building, the video revealed a thick wooded area as the bear was flung into the shrubbery. They then walked back inside. The baby was still crying and walked into the bedroom, picking up a beer bottle. They then walked over to the table and gave it to the baby, who batted it away with their hands, causing it to smash on the floor. The camera was then moved from side to side, as if indicating that the person was nodding their head no, as they tutted again and scooped up the shards of glass. They then placed the glass beside the coat. The video then ended. It was late by the time that I finished, and I was just as confused as when Crawford gave me the camera. I didn't know what to make of these tapes. I felt useless for not being able to think of a single opinion or conclusion as to who or where this person was who owned the camera. One thing was certain though. I was disturbed. Disgusted, in fact. What had I just watched? Who filmed that? Did they abduct that baby? I seem to think so, at least. If it wasn't, then why the videos of the family titled Lucky? Why did they treat the child so poorly? What was the prophecy? Was it some demented way of deluding themselves into thinking their child was a gift? When I arrived home, my dad greeted me at the door. "Hey, chap, how was work?" "That was fine." "Doesn't sound fine to me." "This just... one of the cases got me is all." "Well, I got just the thing to take your mind off of it." "Really?" "Yep. There's a box of my old stuff upstairs. It's been waiting all day for someone to move it." "Really, Dad? You couldn't do that yourself?" Hey, I move boxes for a living. Why would I do it for free?" he said, chuckling to himself. I walked past him and went upstairs to his room. The box was on his bed ready for me. Sighing, I picked it up. Rocking in my hands, a little tennis ball rolled out of the top, bouncing on the floor and under the bed. Rolling my eyes and cursing to myself, I put the box down and bent down to get the ball. As I grabbed the ball, I couldn't help but notice a box of cameras. Call it curiosity, but I couldn't help but look as I dragged that box out. I picked up one of the cameras, flipping it into my hand. Scratched into the side, read the words, "Road trip." My hand shook, my mouth quivering, and my heart racing. What is this? Why is it here? Why does it look the same as the Bourne camera? All these questions and more raced through my mind, my legs buckling as I stood up. I put the camera in my pocket and walked downstairs. I made an impression as if clearing my throat. "Hey, Dad, I left something at work. I'll move the box when I get back, okay? I don't want someone taking my things." "Oh, okay, son. Don't be long or I'll end up having to come up there myself." Chuckling to himself, again from the living room. I opened the front door and carefully closed it behind me before bolting up the driveway to my car and taking off into the night. My whole life has been a lie. What did he do to me? What did that thing do to me? I pulled into an empty spot and parked my car and let myself in and plugged in the road trip camera into my computer. There were 5 more videos. File 1 was named Warning. My hands trembled as I clicked on the video. My fears were soon realized as a figure wearing the same costume as the figure from the video, Prophecy, shuffled into frame. The camera was facing the door that opened outside of the shed as the figure stood within the doorframe, holding their hands together just as the video Prophecy started. It was dark outside. The figure stood in the doorway for 2 minutes before entering the building and walking over towards the camera. Just before reaching the camera, red and blue flashing lights in the background from within the forest. The lights seemed to fill the whole room inside. As the figure broke into a sprint towards the camera, they picked up the camera and positioned it to face the baby before panning the frame towards the door as the person filming made a sign as if to cross themselves. The video ended with the figure picking the baby up and making their way to the door. I was crying at this point. Why did my dad have this? I wasn't convinced. Surely this wasn't my dad. Surely this was just like how the Bourne tapes were found, and he had just bought it from a flea market, right? I frantically clicked on File 5, which was titled Proud. There seemed to be a passage of time by this point, as the camera started from within a dark room, in front of an open door. In the room beyond the camera showed a boy sat on the edge of a motel bed. The boy looked roughly around the age of 8. It was me. My stomach dropped. My mind raced. I don't know what to do, but I have to watch the rest. I have to get the rest of those cameras from under my dad's bed. Thanks for watching, I really hope you enjoyed it. Now, this is the beginning of a series that I would like to do on this channel. So if you guys would like to hear the rest of the stories, make sure to like, comment, and if you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe. Also, if you wouldn't mind putting a comment on the video, make sure to let the author know that you would like to see more. I'm loving this story. I've already seen the other parts, but I'm saying it gets good. But make sure to check out the links in the description like Twitter, Instagram, everything like that, including Gmail. But with that being said, stay safe, stay scary, and I'll see you in the next one.